Hey everybody, it's Miss Sorrells. Today we're going to be doing video 9.3, which is problems dealing with percents. Mr. Nelson went ahead and gave you a preview after you did the foldable with your formula you're going to be using. So this is our percent formula. The P stands for part. The W stands for whatever the whole is, just like a fraction. It's a part over a whole. The percent sign obviously stands for the percentage if you've been told it, and then the 100 stays always 100 because percentage means out of 100. Okay, and down here I went ahead and said this formula will be used to solve any problems where you're given a percent or you're trying to find the percentage. So if you're missing one of these and you're trying to solve for it, you're going to use this formula. We're going to first just start with looking at how the actual formula works. So this is I've go ahead and given you the P equals 2, the W equals 5, and you're solving for percentage in this case. So if I were to set this up, I'm going to write my formula, and then I'm going to start substituting in where the P was, I need to write a 2. Okay, where the W was, I need to write a 5. I don't know the percentage, so I'm going to, I'm not going to use P because we use P over here. I'm going to use a C, and then 100 will always be there. Now that you have the formula filled in, we can cross multiply and divide. This is just a proportion. It's two equivalent ratios. So when I multiply across here, I get 5C, and that will equal to 100 times 2, which is 200. I need to isolate my variable, so I'm going to undo the multiplication. The way I do that is by dividing. Divide by 5, divide by 5. So C will equal is 40. Okay? If you can't do that part in your head, then you can just go ahead and go off to the side and do your division. On this one, same formula. I've got the same things given to me, except this time I'm solving for the percentage. So I write my formula. Okay, and then I start plugging in. I don't know what P is, so I'm going to leave it my variable. W has been given as a 4. I know my percentage is 50, and percentage means out of 100. Same thing, cross multiply and divide. So 50 times 4 is 200. And that's equal to 100 times P, which is 100P. To isolate my variable, I need to divide by 100 to undo it, and divide by 100 here. This one would obviously, P would equal 2. Okay, so that's just how the formula works. Now we're going to look at some problems that are really identical to what's on your Google Doc, which also means they're identical to what's on your test. Okay, so we've got an M&M bag is filled with 65 M&Ms total. 8% of the bag is filled with orange M&Ms. How many M&Ms out of the entire bag are orange? So you're trying to figure out how many out of the entire bag. You have been given the total. So when you're looking at problems like this, it's really a lot of reading and comprehending. And when you say 65, you've got to determine, is 65 the total, is 65 the percentage, is 65 the part? And most of the time you're going to have keywords to help you out. So if it says 65 total, you're obviously, that's your whole. Okay, so my W would be 65. It tells me 8%, so my percentage is 8, and I'm trying to find out how many out of the entire bag. So I'm trying to find a part of the bag. I'm only looking for the orange ones. And then, of course, the 100 is always 100. So my formula is part over whole is equal to percentage out of 100. And then we are going to start filling in. I don't know the P, that's what I'm solving for. My whole is 65 total in the bag. My percentage is 8%. 8% of the bag is orange, and then percentage means out of 100. Okay? Alright, so at this point you're going to cross multiply and divide. You've got 100 times P, which is 100P, is equal to 65 times 8. If you need to, you just come over to the side and multiply, but to save time, I'm going to go ahead and tell you it's 520. Okay, I need to isolate my variable. So undo the 100 times P, so I divide by 100. I'm going to give you a trick here. This will save you a lot of time. With your place value and with decimals, anytime you're multiplying, dividing by tens, hundreds, thousands, you can use this. So if I'm dividing by 100, my decimal would really be after the 0. That still stands for 520 wholes. And if I'm dividing by 100, I just move this decimal back 2 places. So really 520 divided by 100 is 5 2/10. So that's really what P is. So on these, you've got to use your reasonableness too. You say, okay, the question's asking me how many are orange. Do you have 5 2/10 of a M&M? No, but I can guarantee that there would be 5. I can't round that up to 6, but so it would be 5. So your answer would be about. This sign means about, or approximately. About 5 M&Ms are orange. Okay, you've really got to focus on answering what the question is asking, making sure what you're solving for matches up with what the question is asking you. Okay, let's look at another example. This one, it says when you went to PetSmart the other day to buy your dog some treats and dog food, the total was $30. So right there I could say, okay, my whole is 30. The amount of tax was $3.50. About what percentage were you charged for tax? So about what percentage? You are solving for the percentage, which leaves you with your part being tax. Now part, the reason tax is part is because it doesn't match up with the entire bill. It's just part of the bill. You get your total and then you have tax and you add them together. So that's your part. Fill in your formula. So part over whole, so 350 over 30 is equal to, I don't know my percentage, so let's put, instead of a percent sign, let's put a variable. Let's use a T. It doesn't matter. And then this is out of 100. Okay, once again, cross multiply and divide. And the reason cross multiply and divide is nice is because when you start getting decimals and numbers that aren't so great, your proportions aren't going to always work out as well as you'd like them to. So just go ahead and start using the cross multiply and divide if you haven't. So 30 times T is 30T, and then 100 times 350. So just the opposite of what we did up here. Up here, when we divided by 100, we moved it back twice. So when you're multiplying, your numbers are getting larger, which means you're going to be adding in zeros. You're going to move them to the right. So if I have to do, I'm going to come over here and show you. If I have to do $3.50 times 100, I needed to move it once. That's representative of times 10. And if I multiply it twice, that's representative of multiplying by 100. So really, $3.50 times 100 is $350. A lot easier. Saves you time. Isolate your variable. Divide by 30. Divide by 30. Okay. Probably don't know this in your head, so let's go ahead and see if we got room. I'll have to go over this word. That's okay. So 30 doesn't go into 3. 30 goes into 35 one time. Bring down your 0. 30 goes into 50 once, so it's not going to go in evenly. Add your decimal and a 0. And then 30 goes into 200 6 times. That's 180. Okay. And if we kept going, this actually would be repeating. So 11 6/10 repeating. But look at the question. It says about what percentage. So if we were to round this, we would say it's about 12%. So again, there's your approximate sign, about 12%. So your question says, what percentage were you charged for tax? You got charged 12% tax in that case when you went and bought the dog stuff. Alright, this one is a little bit trickier, and I want to make sure we cover it. So you go and you buy a new pair of Nike shoes, and they're going to cost you $75. Okay, the sales tax you've been told is 5%, and then you are trying to find the total cost of your purchase including tax. So here's the thing. You don't know how much tax was. All you know is the percentage of the tax. You don't actually know the amount. So before you can tell me the total cost, you have got to find the cost of the tax. And once you find that, then you can add it to the $75. Okay? When you go somewhere, I don't know if y'all I assume y'all know this, you pay original amount. If it says $1, you don't ever go up to the cash register and just pay $1. It's usually $1.07, $1.08, and that's because the percentage of tax. Okay, so let's see what we know here. We know our total is 75, so our whole is 75. They told us the percentage was 5%, and I don't know the part. I don't know my tax. Okay, so that's what I'm solving for. So let's fill in our equation. Part over whole, so I don't know my part. I know my whole is 75. I know my percentage is 5, and that is always out of 100. Alright, so now we've got to do cross multiply, 100p. And 75 times 5 comes out to 375. Okay, divide by 100. And divide by 100. Here's where that trick comes in place again. Okay, you could come over here and do the division, but if you're dividing by 100, you need to make this number smaller, and so you know, to help you remember which direction to go. If I go to the left, it makes my number smaller, and that's what dividing does. If I go to the right, it makes it bigger. So we're dividing, we're going to go backwards 2. And so this really is P is equal to 3 75 hundredths, which is really $3.75. This is just step 1. This is not the answer. This just tells me how much I'm paying for tax. This says on a $75 purchase with the 5% tax percentage, you're paying $3.75. So now I need to take my $75 that the shoes were and add it to the $3.75 that we just figured out was your tax. When you add, you get $78.75. So your total there for that purchase would actually be $78.75. Okay, like I said, this is really similar to your Google Doc. So if you get to the Google Doc and you're confused, look back. The order is exactly the same. So if you get stuck on number 3 on the Google Doc, go back up to the M&M problem and see how we did it, and it should help you get to the correct answer. Okay, do your best, and we will be checking for your notes tomorrow in class. If you don't have them, you're going to have to redo them. So just go ahead and do yourself a favor and bring them. All right, thank you.